We are live. All right. So this is day four. And and I know where I'm going from Wi-Fi to 5G, so hopefully this works out. And we will see who comes on. But yes, today is technically the last day of our planned workshop after party. Um, but we are still welcoming folks in from the workshop and those who are still interested in um, joining Viral Author Academy um, for if you want to join last month of the year, this is our last launch for the year. Um, and so um, today I want to talk about and we've talked a lot about um, over the past few days. So first on our first workshop day, we had a really great interview with Stella. And Stella is one of our star students inside Viral Author Academy. She has a great story about how she was having this. She's been achieving. She's an amazing person. She's a consummate achiever. I know a lot of us, myself included, kind of identify with that because usually a lot of the things that we try and do, we're pretty good at, and we don't give up easily, and we do it until we're good at it. And so Stella, um, she, um, she, um, she was, doing all the things. She was in corporate, and it's really great at her job. She's making great money. She travels abroad frequently. She took her kids to the Louvre recently. I just found out that they actually had this heist happen. I didn't even know that was happening, but yeah, that was kind of interesting. And she's raising two beautiful daughters, and she's also your internet connection is unstable. Okay. Um, she's raising two beautiful daughters, and she's also building a business. I mean, it's crazy. She's doing an amazing job. And the reason she really felt this calling, she said on this interview, was that she had finally experienced something that kind of felt like it was either now or never. And it was watching her father pass away, which is really sad, but also there's this and this is the the world of duality. This is in the 3D, there's poles, there's opposites. And there's always two sides to every coin in the 3D. Um, and yeah, it is awful that Stella's father passed away, and it's hard to go through grief, and it's hard to be at the bottom. Oh, Stella's here. Oh my gosh, Stella, I'm literally talking about you. Um, it's hard to be at the bottom of what feels like your emotional gradient, right? Like you have like joy and love and peace. And to be at the very bottom, to feel like you're really grieving someone, Stella, your father. Hey, Stella. Oh my gosh. So glad to see you. Um, yeah, and Stella, feel free to chime in. I'm just literally talking about you and recapping, for this video, um, what it was like for you to tell your story. Um, and basically, yeah, like, but at the same time, even though you had to go through the bereavement of your father and you really connected with him, you really loved him as a child, and you lost him when you were an adult, not that long ago, last year. But your awareness blasted open, and you realized something about yourself that you were not going to go any further in your lifetime, um, without making an impact. Making an impact, leaving a legacy, and being an example for your daughters and being, carrying the torch that your father started carrying. It's really amazing. Um, so yeah, this hangnail. Um, so it was just really inspiring to hear that story. and to see how enough was enough, and to see that for some people, um, you were very self-led and you were going to find the right person to help you translate your experience into purpose. Translate the grief that you had experienced, the pain you were experiencing, and turn it into purpose. Turn your pain into purpose, your story into service. Um, and Stella, you have really lit the torch for a lot of the students inside the academy. Um, and it is an honor to serve you and to watch you grow. So, with that said, um, there is, um, you know, there's plenty of people, and for a lot of y'all have had horrible, horrible things happen to you. And Cheyenne's here. Cheyenne, I mean, I don't know your full story, but from what you just mentioned and what you shared inside the workshop, it sounded horrible, just horrible. It sounds like you really lost yourself, and um, you also got to crawl back to yourself. Um, and to watch you and hear your story about how you reclaimed yourself, reclaimed parts of yourself that you thought that you had lost. Every one of us has a version of that. And when we see someone else be brave enough to stand on that stage or to tell their story on a podcast or to read their book aloud in front of God and everybody and bare their soul and be vulnerable and to say, enough is enough. I'm ready. I'm done hiding. I'm done keeping my story to myself because there's nothing more important now than addressing the restlessness within my soul. And your soul has really big dreams for you. Your soul has this path that it wants to walk along in this lifetime. Um, in the Vedas, so the Vedas are an ancient, people call it text, but it's not a text because it was never written. It was an ancient, it's a scripture that is the wisdom of the Indus River region, and it's probably the oldest scripture known to man, so that we know about. And they talk about the concept of an avatar, and they talk about the concept of rebirth, and they talk about how humans are born into this lifetime to live a journey, to experience a journey, so that they can liberate themselves and liberate others from this mortal coil. And that's what a lot of you guys are here to do. That's what you so desperately want. You want exposure, you want more book sales, you want impact. You want to feel the glow of your own impact. And for people to point back to you and say, you were the one that woke me up. Your story woke me up from my dream. It woke me up spiritually from the haze I was living in. But the problem is that people will not wake up and people will not point back to you. People will not see you. You will not make an impact. Your soul will not walk the journey unless your book gets out there. Unless enough people see you tell your story. Unless enough people read your book. Unless enough people watch your podcast. Unless enough people see your TED Talk. A lot of people want visibility because they really just want to they want the visibility so they can get the leads, so they can get the sales, so they grow their business. And that's great and all. That's fine. People can have that. But the smoking hot books entrepreneur, Stella, Maya, Amy, Valerie, They're really doing it for something within them that cannot be put to rest. And that is an inexplicable, ineffable urge to make an impact from your own story, from your own pain, from your own purpose, from your own spiritual awakening. The sun. I'm trying to like block out from the sun. And when you can clearly articulate that story, and when you can master the art of launching a book, and by the way, if you were a workshop participant, you saw that you don't necessarily need to have a big audience to launch a book that can impact thousands of people. Whether you love social media, you hate social media, which by the way, Substack absolutely is social media. Like, I don't know why people are like, I'm getting off social media and I'm going to go on Substack. Like, Substack literally is social media. Okay, let's just say it. And some people are like, well, I don't have a big audience. And I can tell you right now, you don't need a big audience. I sold 15,000 copies of my book with 183 Instagram followers. My client Beth sold 1,000 copies of her book with 100 email subscribers. I think she had like 200 Instagram followers because there's a part of when you are launching a book, you are looking to gather your soul tribe to you. You are looking for people who are resonant for you because this world really acts like a radio. So some people love to talk about the law of attraction, law of attraction, law of attraction. And I'm here to tell you that it's actually way better than that. It's way better than that. And I love to follow the law of reception, which is to say that the law of reception, imagine the world like a radio. And, you turn on the radio and all of a sudden you hear music. And that music has been here this whole time. Music had been here this whole time, but you couldn't receive it. You weren't the antenna for that station. And so when you can turn the dial to the next station, to the Latin station, then you get Latin music. You turn the dial to the hip hop station, then you get hip hop music. But the salsa music, the Latin music, and the hip hop music were there this whole time, but you didn't perceive it yet. You had to be a receiver first. You go first. And then everything else falls in line. Everything else shows up. The salsa music shows up. The hip hop music shows up. And when you can be that person that consistently says, I'm here. This is my book. This is how you're going to get transformed from my book. You're getting transformed by my story. This is how you're going to you're going to be served from my story. When you do that and you go into that, into your book launch with that mindset and that attitude, gosh, you will find your soul tribe. And that's how Beth found nearly 500 people, advanced readers for her book. She only had 100 email subscribers. And she found 500 more, and now they're part of her emails. At the end of it all, she doubled the size of her email list, and she doubled the size of her Instagram within her book launch. And you get to have that too. You don't need to have a big social media. And by the way, a big social media is also overrated. Because a lot of people think like, okay, I can't write my book until I have 40,000 subscribers or 40,000 Instagram followers or whatever it is. But that's so untrue. There was this, I was talking to my friend Erin on LinkedIn, and she was telling me how when she used to work at HarperCollins Publishers, a publisher in the US, she they had this Instagram influencer with 1 million followers on Instagram. They gave him a book deal. They paid him money to write his book, and that book still flopped for many reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because of lack of marketing precision. But the main thing to remember is that it's not about the size of your audience that you have now. I want you to go out into this world and find your soul tribe through your book launch. The act of launching your book will help you attract your soul tribe to you in the act of it. So if you are considering relaunching your book in 2026, maybe you want to relaunch your book in the spring of 2026. By the way, Q1 is a super hot time to launch books, especially nonfiction. People are nuts about rewiring their lives and reshaping their lives, resetting their lives, setting intentions, setting goals in January. And even if it's not January, people are still on fire for it in February and March. They really are. It's a really hot time to launch a book. Summer is more of a lower time because people are reading more like fiction and beach reads during the summer, and they're usually off their routine during the summer. But it's also a less competitive time to also launch a book too. So think about that. But if you're wanting to launch or relaunch your book in 2026 of next year, there's essential elements that you need to get done before you launch your book successfully. And the main thing I would say is finding your soul tribe, is finding a couple hundred people who have read your book and they are so gung ho about it. They are lit up by the thought of your book and so sold on you and your book, and they love your story so much that when your book is live on Amazon, they then leave you a review on Amazon, they download your book, and then they tell everyone in their social media circle, please go buy Stella's book. Go buy Cheyenne's book. Go buy their book. Right? And that takes some time. It takes some effort. It takes some clarity. It takes some organization. It takes some getting used to. Kind of like riding a bike, like the first time you ever ride a bike, you probably fall down a little bit. But once you get the hang of it, you're like, this is easy. And in fact, it's also super rewarding. Super rewarding. I just biked my bike to pickleball last night, and I was biking by the river. I live by this beautiful river in Georgia, and to bike by the river and to bike by the trees, so rewarding. Love riding my bike. And that can be you in your book launch as well. So the recommendation. So my client Valerie is currently in the thick of her book launch runway so that she can have a successful launch in March 2026. She is putting together her podcast episode. She's putting together her podcast pitch. We're putting together her podcast pitch list today or this week. We are gathering the people and where to find people to be her advanced readers, her soul tribe, the people that see Valerie's work. And by the way, we're going to be sharing Valerie's book to everyone inside Smoking Hot Books so that anyone inside Smoking Hot Books can get a early advanced copy of Valerie's book. And it's all about achieving more by doing less. Loosening fear's grip on the mind. The mind just wants to predict everything. It wants to see how it's all going to pan out. It wants the $1 million for no other reason than to just say, I want the $1 million. While meanwhile your family's suffering, your health's suffering, your anxiety is suffering, And Valerie says you can get there, but you can do it with less. So that book is going to be shared to everyone inside Smoking Hot Books. And you guys can get an early copy of that when it's time. But Valerie is in the thick of relaunching her book right now so that she can have a successful March launch. Um, so here's the question for you. Again, if you want a successful launch in 2026, the time to act is now. The time to join Viral Author Academy is now. The time to set down your scarcity is now. The time to set down your procrastination is now. The time to be the author you've always dreamed of is now. I was just talking to, so I do these, I do weekly meetings with my friend Nika. Nika is an amazing speaker, author and speaker, and she was just in LA doing a speaking gig at Myron Golden's. You guys don't know who Myron Golden is. Oh man, that man, he makes like $73,000 a day or something. Kind of insane. But anyway, she was just speaking at Myron Golden's event. And Nika told me that for 2026, that the time to make the decision about how much money and how much success she was going to experience in 2026, she had to set that now. She set that intention now. And it's already November, and for a lot of people, actually, it's kind of late. A lot of people start doing this in August. Some people start doing it in October, so they can get ready for next year. And some people are like, well, I don't think that I have really the time to do this right now. I don't have the time. And here's the thing about time is that I'm calling you out on your bullshit again. Time is you Time is simply a construct of the mind, and all that you do is that you make time. You make time for the things that you prioritize. I was just texting my friend. Um like we hadn't hung out in weeks, and I was like, I'm making time for you, Raven. I'm making time to set aside time to text you and put a plan together so that we can hang out in a few weeks. And it's gonna happen in a few weeks. But because I value her and her time, I make time for her. And I value our relationship. I make time. I make time. Some of y'all are like, I've I've signed up for this other marketing thing. And I get it. I understand if you guys have signed up for another marketing pathway, and this book is not necessarily in your purview just yet. And I get it. In fact, a book really will, you will be experiencing a lot when you write a book. But you're not just writing a book for anybody. You're writing a book for the person who's going to be buying high ticket products from you, high ticket services. And if you are still struggling with attracting, you don't have quite the words yet to attract high ticket clients. If you're still struggling with getting leads, if you're still struggling with knowing what to say and your words aren't landing with people on Substack or wherever in a way that is attracting the right person to you, then you need to be inside Viral Author Academy. Because if you've never quite done the exercise where you have pinpointed the 2 a.m. thoughts of your target market, if you've never done the exercise of outlining a day in their life, if you've never done the exercise of outlining their top 10 objections for why they're not moving forward with you, then you need to be inside Viral Author Academy. Every single one of these objections is why people still are going to find someone else to work with because you're not addressing their objections because they're looking for assurance from someone and they're going to find assurance from someone who knows how to address their uncertainty. And if you still do not know why they're not signing up with you, what their objections are over and over again, and you're still not addressing them, you're not giving them the assurance that they're looking for. These exercises, that clarity is accomplished inside Viral Author Academy. And it permeates into every single thing you do in marketing. When I started Smoking Hot Books, this brand, I actually did the exact same marketing exercises that I did when I launched my Rainwater book because I knew that level of thought clarity of knowing the 2 a.m. thoughts that my target audience had, I needed to say them out loud. I needed to know every single one of their objections. I needed to know all their 2 a.m. thoughts. I needed to get inside their head. And that's why all of you guys are here. Because I know things about you. Why you're still stuck. Why you can't move forward with your life. The thing is that you can move forward with your life. You can. You have that power. You're the hero of your own story. You get to be the person on their deathbed that laughs at how much fun you had and how much impact you got to make in your life. And how your soul can be liberated from this mortal coil finally because of the positive karma you created in this lifetime. Feels good, doesn't it? Feels good. So, if you're still on the fence about joining Viral Author Academy, we are doing a special cart extension. What does that mean? The cart is technically closing today, but we are making a special exception for those who are still on the fence and who know that they need to relaunch their book, who know that they want more exposure, and who know they need to make a decision for themselves, that they need to choose themselves. They need to choose abundance. They need to choose that being the hero of their own story before anything else happens to them. Before that, the hip hop music is to show up in there on the radio, they need to turn to the radio station first. They need to turn to the hip hop radio station first. So we're doing a special card extension. If you are still on the fence about joining Viral Author Academy, whether it's about money, whether it's about time, or something else, I'm going to send you a poll. I'm sending a poll out to the bigger Substack, Smoking Hot Book Substack. And you're going to answer truthfully about where you're at and why you still feel like you keep yourself stuck. Because that dream is never going to stop calling to you. Until you experience what your soul came here to do, you will still feel restless. You will still feel that itch, that purpose itch, that place where you know you are made for more. You know, without a shadow of a doubt, you are made for more impact, more service, more purpose, more wealth, more health, more lit, being lit from the inside out, like we said. And some people, some of y'all, think about some things, like, what would happen if I started, actually becoming a successful author? That might mean I have to stop working my day job. And maybe you guys feel really purposeful in your day job. You're like, well, what would that mean? I would actually have to stop doing what I'm doing now. And I get it. I gosh, like I spent years going to grad school, at college and grad school, so that I could work a corporate job in something I'm very passionate about, which is healthcare process improvement. Because in the US, healthcare processes are very unreliable. And I think the statistic is that actually healthcare accidents are like the second most common cause of death in the US behind heart disease. But I don't do that anymore because I'm willing to know that I can impact people in more ways than one, and I can impact and help people in different ways. There was I once followed this nail salon lady. She does this awesome nail art, and she used to be a nurse, and she really had this calling to become a nail artist because she loved it. She really enjoyed it. She was getting good at it. And she was actually having really great conversations with people when she was doing the nail art. And she wrestled a lot of the time with wondering, am I actually going to still make the same impact? Am I actually still helping people in the same way if I do nail art versus being a nurse? And I'm going to, sometimes you wonder, like, is it really that much better that, are there professions that are necessarily better than others? I don't think so. Because when she started doing nail art and she was having these conversations with these ladies would open up to her and tell her things that they felt like they couldn't tell anybody else. And they didn't feel alone in the world. And they finally felt they had a friend. They finally felt they had support in the world. And they felt like so they would tell her things like, wow, my marriage is not at all what I want it to be. I don't like my marriage. My marriage is falling apart. And she got to be that support for them and their marriages. And she couldn't have done the same thing while she was a nurse, while running around the ER all the time and, you know, running around with her head cut off and feeling like she was in survival mode. And yeah, she's like helping people, survive in the physical aspect. But how is she helping people in the emotional and the spiritual aspect? It's like a little bit, not a lot. But when she was actually a nail artist, the amount of impact she was making on her clients on an emotional and spiritual level was actually way more than when she was doing it as a nurse. So your calling to be an author, your calling to impact people with your words, your calling to impact people on a wider, broader, deeper level is actually the universe calling you to step up and impact people deeper. Kevin says everyone makes an impact in their own way. And you're absolutely correct. The universe is holding out its hand for you and saying, this is your opportunity to actually help more people in a deeper way, in ways that they feel like they can't access while you're busy doing this other thing. That's why you have this restlessness within you, because it's the universe trying to kick you out the door. It's saying there are people who need your words. They're saying when they read your story, they finally felt seen. They finally felt whole. They finally felt like they weren't alone in the world. And that does way more for their emotional and spiritual health than possibly what you're doing right now. Um, and that's actually the whole thing, is that people's lives are an emanation of their emotional and spiritual health. And that's why I believe so deeply in the Smoke and Hot Books mission, because we help people who are emotionally and spiritually driven by a mission to sell more books. And when you can sell more books and impact more people on an emotional and spiritual level, that's when their lives actually change from the inside out. That's when they have different thoughts. That's when they have different beliefs. That's when they're healthy from the inside out. I'm half Chinese and half Indian, and there's the Chinese medicine philosophy is that your health is really more of an emanation from your spiritual and your emotional health. And being in the West, I've grown up in the US my whole life. I see it every single day. My mother-in-law was recently diagnosed with cancer, unfortunately. She recently had a mastectomy, and so she's on her way back to health. But her surgeon told her that one of the biggest reasons why people are experiencing these high levels of cancer in the US is because, a lot of people say, the physical, the chemistry and all that, but this doctor said because of stress. Because we put all this pressure on ourselves and we think that we're alone in the world. But think about think about what you can do as an author. Think about how these people need you. Think about how much cancer you could actually prevent by sharing your words more, by taking action now. Think of how the lives you're saving by stepping into your soul path now, choosing your soul path now, choosing you right now. There are some other maybe main objections that people have about starting their book journey now. And some people want to think, well, if I actually start writing my book right now and really dedicate time to it now, then all this other stuff over here in my business will, I'm afraid that it's going to fall by the wayside. It's not going to be as good and healthy as it is now. And I understand possibly why you say that. And I want to possibly paint a picture for you that you're absolutely correct. When you write a book, you will be dedicated to it. And that's what really great authors do. Really great authors dedicate time to their books. But you're also going to be spending about 1 to 2 hours max writing your book every day. And most people spend about an hour. What does that mean? You have 8 hours in a day. Some people work less, some people work more. So we'll assume 8 hours. And even if you write 2 hours a day, you still have 6 hours left in a day to dedicate to your business. So that's what, like 6 out of 8. So that's like 3 out of 4. So that's 3 out of 4 is 100 divided by 425. So 75. You still have 75% of your day to dedicate to your business, even while writing a book. Isn't that crazy? That's awesome. That sounds great. And as you have 75% of your day left, you're very likely going to start allowing for the leadership of your team, leadership of your business, whether it's your assistants, maybe it's a great time to hire an assistant, a great time to know how to become a great leader. Because when the time comes for you to launch your book, and you're going to be on those stages and you're going to be on those podcasts and you're going to be the living embodiment of your story and your message and your brand, it's going to be time intensive. And while you are currently, living out your story and living out your message and living out your mission, your team then gets to run your business because you have spent the time preparing them for that time when you knew that you were going to be writing your book. And slowly but surely, they will start to embody more responsibility. And for a lot of you guys are wanting more clients, more money, more leads because you imagine a time in your life in the future when you don't have to work as hard. That can start now. That gets to start now when you force, there's something in engine. I was learning this in Georgia Tech, and I think it's a math thing. It's called a forcing function. When you force yourself. So, like, for example, like, I try not to buy, like, sweets when I'm at the grocery store. So I force myself not eat them when I'm at home. Same thing here. You kind of force yourself to actually give your team responsibility. You force yourself to start to offload responsibilities. Force yourself to offload If things are actually giving you stress and making you feel like one day I can finally feel calm, well, you get to start doing that now. And 6, 8 months from now, you're gonna have a team that's ready, that's been ready, that's already gone through the time that what it takes and the errors and mistakes and the getting better iterations of getting better so that when the time comes for you to fully embody being a successful immortal author, that sounds good. They're ready. And that's what relaxation, that's what retirement really feels like, isn't it? When things are humming along, you could just sit back and relax and live your purpose. Be the legacy. Be the legacy. So the cart for Viral Author Academy is still open. It's been extended. It has been extended for a 1 week. So next week is Thanksgiving in the US. Woohoo! I'm so excited. What are you guys making in for Thanksgiving? We're gonna be making some pies and we're gonna probably get some collard greens. So we live in the South. I'm in Georgia. And so we have I guess like every region has their own specific kind of Thanksgiving like cuisine. And in the South, where it's like pretty specific with like Southern food. So collard greens, sweet potatoes, okra, which are all West African dishes, and naturally imported from West Africa into the South. Probably some of the greatest imports of all time. Amazing food. And I'm half Chinese and half Indian, and I've lived in the South my whole life, and I've married into an American Southern family. Um, and so we sometimes have Chinese food. It's a great agglomeration of cultures and just the love that we all have for each other, despite background, despite skin color, despite, I mean, and Here's another thing that has been weighing on my mind. Like, the person who is a great fit for Viral Author Academy and for any of my clients is the person who has never taken offense and has never felt that they were ever um, less than, down and out, victim because of their situation, their circumstance, their skin color, their background, whatever it is. They've never identified as underrepresented. I have never felt, I've never identified as underrepresented. I've never identified as anything other than powerful myself. My parents were immigrants to the US. My mom's from Hong Kong, my dad's from India. And from birth, both of them instilled in me and my sister's younger than me, instilled in me and my sister that there is nothing about us that can be compared to anybody else. Whether it's skin color, food, whether it's language, background, whatever, the amount of money we made, they instilled in us that we were just as good as everybody else. Because of that, never have ever felt like I was underrepresented, down and out, victim of any sort. No. And in fact, I love hanging around people who don't ever identify as that. And if so, you're my person. You're my person if you've never identified as a victim of your circumstances. There was one time, and this is perfectly articulates what I have come to know and believe about the concept of offense. A lot of people out there, they get offended really easily. for whatever reason. And if you've never heard of the concept of not getting offended, this might be new to you. But I was in college one time. This was in a biology lab, and I had a lab partner who was Indian from the subcontinent of India. He was an exchange student. Actually, he wasn't an exchange student. He wasn't an exchange student. He was just moved to the U.S. to study at Georgia Tech. He was a citizen of India, and these are the words that he said, and I've come to embody them. And the reason I've come to embody them because he articulated so specifically what I believe was that you that I it, that offense is not a concept that he ever understood. And I have to agree. I don't really, I don't, yeah, he's like, offense is not something that I understand. Because to me, that's what he said, that offense is something that is taken and not given. So it is completely possible for you, because this is me, by the way, to not get offended by what things people say, even if they are trying to offend you. There was one time where my mom is Chinese, we were walking around in this, little southern town, and we walked in this gift shop, and the store owner said, "Hey, do you guys speak English?" And some people would have been so offended that a store owner asked if we spoke English. Who gives a shit? Why do I have even the time of day to wonder if he was discriminating against me? I don't even have the time of day. My mom and I laugh our asses off. That's the concept of us not speaking English. And we were like miming, like pretend. We were like laughing our asses off. Like later we were thinking, like, what if we had just pretended that we didn't speak English to this guy? It would been so funny. No, don't, there's no point in assuming that people are trying to make you a victim. And I just want to say that because I'm kind of tired of holding it in. People around me are like, oh, I just like, no. And I'm giving myself permission to trigger people. I'm giving myself permission to say my truth out loud. That if you're the kind of person that doesn't easily get offended, if you're the kind of person that doesn't even understand the concept of offense, possibly, if you're the kind of person that sees your world as a living playground, an open world video game, a game to have fun and to master and to try. You know how like in some video games, like it's like it can be like like a Super Mario level, and you try and you fail, and you try and fail, you try and fail, and finally you get it. You're like, yes, so fun. That's what life gets to feel like. And those are my soul tribe people. And if you're not, bye. Bye, 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 bye. All right. I have 10 minutes. So, in fact, I have more like 5 because I have a call after this with my client. But if you're watching this and you're on the fence about joining Viral Author Academy, you have an extension to make your decision. You have 1 more week to join in 2025. If it's a price thing, consider this, that Americans spend on average 60 to 70% of their income, which means that that money is going to be spent anyway. That money is going to be spent on all sorts of random trinkets around your house, or you can spend it on something that's actually going to light you up. That's going to help you go to your deathbed with nothing but joy and fun and happiness in your heart and make the world a living playground. So here's another concept for you. But Viral Author Academy isn't just about selling books. It's about becoming the kind of person who sees the world as your playground. If you don't live like that yet, Viral Author Academy is for you. If you want to live like that, it's a great time to try it out. The price is going up to $3K next year. Currently $2,497. The price is going up to $3K next year. Next year. Now is the time. Now is the time to say yes to yourself. Now is the time to become the living embodiment of the entrepreneur that you've always envisioned yourself to be. Because if you keep delaying, waiting just creates more waiting, but action creates more action. Action creates results. Results create more results, and more and more, and on and on and on. And you live in an abundance loop. So without further ado, signing off, I am going to leave a link down below. I'm also going to leave a poll so that you can say if you're still on the fence about joining Viral Author Academy and it's really a matter of money or time, vote in the poll. And we'll be in touch. And we are giving away a few merit-based scholarships. Just a few. Like, honestly, I don't even know why I'm doing this, because truly, if you don't pay the price that you need to be paying, you're not going to value this. You need to pay the price that you value it. But we are giving away a few merit-based scholarships. If you answer in that poll, you will qualify for a merit-based scholarship. All right, toodaloo. Bye.